It'll all then be in one place. Should be careful. Oh, I like my.
I'll call this March 4th TCC committee meeting to order. First order and just kind of some housekeeping. Of course, it's in-person meeting. We do have a hybrid option, so hopefully staff's always good about keeping up with comments and questions in the chat because you may not be able to hear everybody except for speakers. I never have a problem with people hearing me though, so didn't have a loud voice. So first item is ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the combined meeting on February 4th.
I'll move.
A motion, a second? Second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for all those in favor of approval minutes, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next, open the floor to any public comment. Anybody from the public wishes to make a comment for this committee? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and we'll move on to action items. Well, our single action item is endorsement of amendments to the TIP. I'll turn that over to Matthew Cushing. And one thing I'll ask Matthew is just kind of give us a additional explanation of kind of where we're at with the TIP overall.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So start with the broad reminders, but then talk about the unique situation we're in this year where we kind of have two TIP periods overlapping for a short period of time. But as a brief reminder, I'm sure most of you have heard this numerous times, but the TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program, is our short range plan that programs federal dollars onto transportation projects. There's a number of things that are relevant here, but probably where most of you use it on a day-to-day basis is you use these pages to obligate funds in the federal grant management system through TDOT local programs. All regionally significant projects are going to be in that TIP. It funnels down from our long-range plan, the regional transportation plan. This year is a unique year. We are moving to the 2630 TIP. Y'all adopted that back in November. Because we are also still going through the RTP process, this was kind of, I'd say like a partial adoption is how I would say that. Basically, we carried over any funds from the last TIP that had not been obligated yet. So projects that already had programming, but the funding had not all been obligated, those are in the 26 to 30 TIP. There's also some GNRC programmatic projects where we could already project out revenues. And there are also a number of TDOT projects that are shown in that 26 and 30 TIP. But what is unique, that process is the 2630 TIP is still going through federal processes as well. So we still also have the 23 and 26 TIP. There's some overlap on that 26 year between the two TIPs, but it is a unique situation. This is not a common occurrence for us here. So when I'm talking through these amendments, most of them are in both TIPs at the moment. Some of them we'll talk about, we're going to be removing from the 26 to 30 TIP. We'll be talking about that momentarily. A lot of what we've shown in the TIP packet is the representation as in the 2630 TIP. That is the most recent adopted TIP that y'all have shown us there. So I'll pause. Does that give you the context you're looking for?
That's the context I was looking for. And I know there was some concern about a TIP being frozen or anything like that without the RTP being adopted. So where are we at with that?
Well, it will be as of in February,
Right.
which has been the case for the last couple of cycles for RTP. So once we process the latest round of amendments, modification, we'll have to wait till RTP is adopted before we make any other adjustments. We can still work on those together, but Federal Highway is not going to accept those until we're done.
So that said, I'll move into the amendment list. I will be transparent. This is a long list today. I will try to keep it, raise my voice and lower it at times to give you a bit of a ride to go through. There are some themes you're going to see, though. There's really kind of two new items, the first two amendments here, 11 and 12 on your list. Then there's a big grouping where we are removing projects from the 26 to 30 TIP. I'll go into more context on all of those, but I'll point out that a big chunk of them are TDOT projects that were programmed in the last TIP. They are not in the 10-year plan. So we had carried them forward because they had unobligated funds, but we have received a guidance and request to go ahead and remove those. So I will soon be talking through all of those. I'm suspecting that is where will be the most questions today. So if you're going to be focusing along while I'm reading through, I suggest you may want to be checking that to see if you have questions on those. But otherwise, I'll start at the top. The first two, like I said, are kind of new things, new additions. The first one here is we are making an amendment to TDOT's travel congestion and clean air improvement program grouping. This is kind of the CMAQ grouping, generally speaking. We are adding in NEVI funds. So NEVI is for electric vehicle infrastructure. It's a federal funding program. There was a pause in the last year due to the change in federal administration, but there has been recent guidance that TDOT can proceed with those awards. So essentially, we are amending in 7 projects that TDOT has awarded for electric vehicle infrastructure, charging infrastructure near interstates. There's 7 projects. At a high level, there are 2 along I-24, 4 along I-40, 1 on I-65. Similar breakdown, 2 in Davidson County, 1 in Robertson, 1 in Rutherford, 1 in Williamson, and 2 in Wilson. And so again, we're just adding in those awards so that those can be drawn down and those projects can proceed. Moving next down the list, we are adding funding to the City of Springfield's 3R improvement grouping. The 3R, if you're not familiar with that phrasing, is resurfacing, restoration, rehabilitation. So in a lot of ways, a maintenance program. So the project, as it shows in our TIP currently, there were cost overruns on the maintenance projects. There was a different project in our 23 to 26 TIP, the Batson Parkway project, that had federal funding on it, but was completed with local dollars instead of federal funding. So essentially, we're moving the federal funding that kind of fell off that other project onto the 3R projects to allow those maintenance projects to proceed. And I'll pause for a moment because we're getting into the removals. I'll talk about some that we are handling well, I'll give you one other piece of context for the tips. So you're probably going to see 2 large, in the next few meetings, amendment packets to the tip. So one, of course, is what we were talking about when we adopt the RTP, we'll be adding in new funding for all the new projects that receive funding. So in the next few months, you're probably going to see another large list of amendments coming down the pack. Today, though, we're doing removals of any projects that we have noticed. There's either a request from TDOT as an example, or we've noticed projects that had a very small carryover balance. We've checked in and we've seen they were actually completed. So we are no longer showing those. So that the next 2, the City of Gallatin, Nashville Pike Sidewalk, and the City of Hendersonville's the Sanders Ferry, Drakes Creek Bike Trail. Both of these we asked about in the RTP process. We realized one of them had, the Gallatin project had about 60,000 federal of CMAQ funding showing as remaining. We asked about it and they said, hey, project's done. So we are removing that from the list. Hendersonville's a similar situation. We saw 6,000, just under 6,000 in federal USTPG funds on that project. We asked, it is complete. We'd like to remove it from the tip for that reason. This is the next big thematic group. This is the TDOT grouping. So projects 15 through, or amendments 15 through 23 in your packet are where I'll be focusing this next section. Generally speaking, as a reminder, this is the place where projects are not in the 10-year plan, so we've been asked to remove them from the tip, but they were there previously. I'm going to do a high-level overview of these. There's a lot of them. So do feel free, we'll pause at the end to ask questions. Do feel free to note them for your community. Looking first, though, the Central Pike Widening Phase 2. This is near the Davidson-Wilson line. There is $1.2 million in federal STBG funding that is removed for the NEPA and design phases. There is a note that this is an Improve Act project, just for context. Next down the list, the I-24 ramp improvements at exit 40 and 60. For reference, this is Old Hickory Boulevard and Hickory Hollow in Davidson County. This removes $400,000 in federal NHPP dollars for NEPA and design work. There's not in the packet that we received a specific mention of the choice lanes, but it is worth noting that this may have some overlap. I can clarify further if they'd like to. Otherwise, the State Route 11, US 31A, the Nolensville Road reconstruction and widening. There are some other segments that I believe still exist, but this one is removed for $16.8 million in federal construction funding. I-24 interchange improvements at exit 80. This is State Route 99 or New Salem Highway in Rutherford County. 2.25 million federal dollars removed for NEPA and design. This is another one that doesn't specifically mention choice lanes, but again, there could be some potential to reference that there. I-24 ramp improvements at Almaville Road, State Route 102, exit 70. This is Almaville Road in Rutherford County. Removes 800,000 in federal NHPP for right-of-way. This one does specifically notate inclusion in the choice lanes project. You can see there's some public materials out now. You can actually see the designs there. They're showing at present in those. Next one, number 20, Columbia Pike, State Route 6, US 31, widening from I-840 to Machatcher Parkway, Williamson County, removes 1.2 million in federal NHPP for NEPA and design. Number 21, I-65 State Route 441, Moores Lane interchange reconstruction in Williamson also removes 1.2 million in federal NHPP for NEPA and design. We're getting through, you guys. Well, my cadence, I'm trying. Let's see, Lebanon Road, State Route 24, widening from near Park Glen Drive to near Benders Road in Wilson. 400,000 in federal NHPP are removed for the right-of-way phase. Last removal on the list, the I-24 widening from Old Hickory Boulevard to I-65. This is not the southern section that's in the Choice Lanes project. This is near Davidson-Robertson line, the Davidson-Robertson line, and it removes 1.6 million in federal NHPP funds. So those are the removals. There are some other amendments. These are generally speaking more like termini adjustments or small scope description changes. Many of them are not dramatic changes at this point, but I'll read through what they are here. 26024, so Amendment 24 is the State Route 65 spot improvements. This is probably the largest like text change. So we did have a 6.1 mile stretch from I-24 to Old Highway 431, but it's actually a 1.77 mile stretch starting at Huffman Road and to Old Highway 431. So that termini adjustment actually does reduce what we had shown a significant amount. Otherwise, number 25, the Old Fort Parkway widening. This is really more of an administrative change. We had a description that seemed to mirror the previous project. Actually, it showed a termini in Robertson County, but it is not. It is from I-24 to State Route 1 in Rutherford County. So we're correcting that change. Otherwise, State Route 109 Portland bypass. If you're familiar with this project, there's essentially two parts of the project, a north and a southern part. This just amends the length of the project in the description so that it includes both parts of the project rather than, I believe it was just the southern one at first. Finally, last one for you here. There is a new project being added. Transparently, there's been a lot of discussion, even in recent days, about scope and budget here. But this is the widening of Vietnam Veterans Boulevard, State Route 386. And then there's Long Hollow Pike and Offutt Drive connector as a part of the project. This is a widening of 386 kind of east of Hendersonville into Gallatin, and also the addition of a split diamond interchange at State Route 174 Greenlee Boulevard. It's an SPP project. There've been a lot of recent discussions, like I've said. We did get an email last night basically saying that we do need to add 7.86 million of local dollars for right-of-way via Gallatin. So that will be adjusted in future showings, but just not before we had this packet up. So I think right now it just shows the state funds in 2028. But that one, like I said, is an SPP project we're adding in here. I'll pause. I know that was a huge list. So are there questions? I presume there are.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. Before we get into discussion, just I'd entertain a motion to endorse these amendments to the tip.
Make a motion.
Motion, second? Second. So now any discussion?
So this is for the tip that ends in 26 or the tip that begins in 26?
If the programming is in the year 2026 fiscal year, it's in both documents.
Okay.
If it's beyond 2026, it's only going to show up in the new tip. Correct.
Okay.
The 26 is in both tips and it's shared. So that answer your question.
Yes.
And so I've got a question. So we kind of briefed on this before the item, but with the tip technically being frozen, can we amend it? Is
We
it,
can process this stuff.
Okay.
Like I said, they're not going to be
Okay.
accepted by federal highway.
That's
until-
okay. Good. I just wanted the clarification of it. Okay. Any other discussion?
On the Portland bypass project that was combined, is that new total cost both the north and south phase?
Sure.
Just curious. I thought that they were going separate, but
We'll need to verify. I do not know off the top of my head. I don't know if I don't presume, Sean, that you would know that off the top of your head.
Looking at the total cost,
Like enough money for both.
I don't think it's both of them. I think it's just one of them.
We'll verify and adjust as needed. Thank you for pointing that out.
Anything else?
Just a quick question. How much awareness, I guess, amongst elected officials related to the TDOT removal project has there been?
I mean, that's what these meetings are for, is to make sure that we're aware of what decisions TDOT is making that's going to impact our expectations for work across our region. Many of these we just recently found out through the series of meetings that we had with TDOT in December and January as we were trying to get aligned on the RTP. Part of our update on the RTP this morning is going to be tied to the fact that there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things happening at once. There's the RTP update, which is every 5 years. That happened to coincide with TDOT's the schedule for updating the STIP. We weren't required to be updating our TIP, but we do that in conjunction with the STIP update. That made the timing awkward. And then this time around, we have a 10-year plan, which is really guiding all of TDOT's decisions and things that we want to have happen in our region beyond the 10-year plan. It's been difficult to reconcile. So these removal, I don't think there's necessarily a lack of commitment to these projects, but they're not listed in the 10-year plan. So TDOT doesn't want to show them in the TIP. But if they're important to you, we need to continue to advocate that they not fall off the radar.
So they'll say it really for the first time later this month. Okay.
Well, hopefully from you all before the meeting. If there's a project being removed in your community, it's probably good for, it's kind of the role of the committee is to make sure that their elected officials briefed before they get to the TPP. Of course, we'll be their staff to make sure we can answer any questions and bridge the gap between them and the state.
On the 386 project, can you clarify what the termini is? I'm not exactly sure where that is exactly.
Basically Greenlee Boulevard to State Route 109.
I can give some context because there is some confusion about how this project relates to the other section of 386 that is shown as transit managed lanes in the
Yeah,
Improve
that's where I
Act.
was going.
Yeah, so this is kind of the eastern part of it that the Improve Act does not show as requiring transit managed lanes. So this stops before that, and it's a much smaller part closer to the city of Gallatin.
I would say our adopted RTP does call for transit managed lanes all the way to Gallatin. As we are updating the plan, we'll make sure that the description matches what's in the Improve Act, unless the board feels otherwise to compel TDOT to build them all the way to Gallatin.
Thank you.
But the project's been included in the George Lanes project, and the commitment that the local government made is no longer necessary, I guess, because we've made some commitments along that I-24 Animal Road exit to get the DDI built, so.
That's a good question. We should get confirmation of that.
One more question. On the Amendment 24, I-65, State Route 65 improvements. So did you have the termini wrong before, or is this a lot less but it's the same amount of money? Is that because the?
Talking about this recently.
Yeah, I can elaborate on this one. It went in as like pretty much the entire corridor. but the budget kind of put the constraints on it. And so it became, what do we fit into that budget? So it shortened the scope to what you see in there to how we provide a climbing lane right around where the county line is, kind of dips down and comes back up the hill. And we've also looked at it. So that's the shortening. So I like to say we went like this, and then we extended it a little bit back north to get to the current 4-lane. So we tied back in. We didn't want to have this climbing lane and back in, then we've opened back up again. So we made a concept of additional survey and stuff to extend at least up to where the 4-lane is, going into Springfield. But it's really that piece from I-24 all the way up to that point is where it's been cut down. So I mean, it's strictly from the available budget that was in the Modernization Act.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right, I've got a proper motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4A, Regional Transportation Plan for an informational item. I'll turn it over to, I'm assuming, Michael?
Yeah,
This
because we've already gotten into a little bit of this topic, but for a update on the regional transportation plan, we're not bringing any new information to you today in terms of your review and feedback. We have posted all that is available currently to the website, which includes all but 2 chapters, but all the precursor documents that were developed along the way, like the policy framework, the priority project list is posted online. The map of your projects is posted online. We are still working through the short-term portion of the RTP process. Like we just mentioned, we're processing a bunch of TIP amendments that are going to have an impact on our fiscal constraint for the 2030 horizon of the RTP. It's very difficult to allocate funding beyond the 2030 horizon until we get that settled. We do have a good handle on the long-range priorities, cost estimates, what you're trying to accomplish. It's really more the short term that we're trying to get figured out. So we'll just keep you posted. We will have a lot more information to present to the Transportation Policy Board on the 18th of March, but we will not be asking them to adopt the plan that day. We just don't feel comfortable asking them to do that without doing the proper 30-day. Everybody has 30 days to take a look at what we're doing. So we will be announcing a special call meeting at some point in April. I'm not going to give that date out this morning and then risk having to shift that, but we're weeks away, not months away from getting this done. So if you have any questions until March 18th or that new date is announced, just reach out to staff. I know, Nick, you had reached out about scoring for your projects. One thing to keep in mind, if you see your scores drop from one iteration of the scoring to the next, it's not likely because your project's being penalized. Just remember, all the scoring is relative. So as other projects are meeting more of the criteria that are set by those goals and objectives, it's going to have an impact on all the other projects. So if you see your projects fall down the list a little bit, it doesn't necessarily mean it won't be in the fiscally constrained plan. And at any rate, the RTP doesn't directly fund projects. That's what we do through the TIP anyway. It just positions your projects for the short range decisions that the NPO and TDOT and Federal Highway and FTA are making when it comes to programming grant dollars and the TIP. So that's the short answer to your question, Nick, but we can open the hood, look at your specific projects. So we'll keep you posted. Really appreciate everybody's input over the last several months. I know we had a lot of back and forth in terms of what you were trying to accomplish and where you are in project status. And I think right now it's just trying to get reconciled fully with TDOT before we put anything out there publicly for adoption.
That was going to be my next question, was make sure the TDOT had a chance to weigh in and everything. So
yeah, I mean, TDOT is many different divisions,
yes,
many different perspectives. So making sure we're not reading too much into TDOT's global perspective on an issue just because of the feedback from one particular division. It's really important that we have really cross-sectoral representation from the department in our process. Any questions for us at this point?
look forward to additional discussion at the TPB. We'll move into regular reports. Turn it over to Sean Armstrong today.
So first, thank you guys for letting me be here. From the region side, I do want to give a few things. So you guys know potholes are in bloom. That's kind of the common theme this time of year. So our crews are actually working, continue to report those potholes through our, I think you can go to T-Dot Fix. Also send a T-Dot comment in. Please be specific in the location. It helps us out a lot to get out. Good news is it's warming up. So we're having a lot more success in these patches. Debris removal is underway. So we have a contract, open-ended contract in place through the counties that were affected through that got it declared through the FEMA emergency. I'm not going to read every county off that's on this list, but it looks like Williamson, Cheatham, Davidson, Murray, Robertson, Sumner, and Wilson is part of the MPO area. Just an update, we're 20% complete in the region on the debris removal. So you guys are well aware our roads you still see it out there, but they're actually working on it. We've had 17 days of cleanup occur. 60,000 cubic yards have been picked up. The highest single day haul was around 16,500 cubic yards that was picked up. Over 16,000 hazards for hanging limbs and trees have been removed on our routes. We've hired a consultant that's kind of doing the back office side of it to kind of do the tracking of where things are. They did kind of an initial assessment on the routes. We're about 1.8 million in that cost. And then our contractor costs were about 4.7 million in debris removal. So we're working hard. I think the initial completion date's mid-April is what they're doing. Trust me, I stay on my district guys, our district 39 managers over the contract. I was like, hey, when you gonna get to 100? No, they're working hard on it. Just please continue to be patient as we get the routes cleaned up. Pavement, back to some of the things where the ice causes damage. We had some failing sections out there. So just an update, I-24, which is Davis County line to just past Almaville Road. That is looking to start in mid-April. So we're already talking with the contractors right now to try to see what we can do, but trying to get that out. We have gone out and done some patchwork, some strips where we've lost some of that old open grade friction course. So that's underway. That pavement's been let to contract. It's a matter of getting the contractor out there as fast as we can. Coming up next week, I-40 at I-65 down south. In that area around I-65, 840, we had some issues as well due to the ice. You will see some paving starting next week. So we understand that it feels like all of Middle Tennessee is on spring break next week, and there's a lot of travel patterns south of the beach. So we've been working with contractors and stuff to try to ensure that we're not trying to impact travel patterns that would cause where congestion hits and then you hit another construction where we're doing paving. So we've been working through that as well to try to mitigate. So the heavy going south on Saturday and back on next Saturday, try to get that resolved, make sure we're out of the way. And then we have one more section, I-24, Davis County line north, coming back towards O'Hare Boulevard. We accelerated a project and we bundled it to get that paved. That is going in the March flooding. So we realize there's a lot there. We had some pretty significant failures on the interstates. We're trying to get that resolved as fast as possible out there. Just from a project update real quick, construction projects, I-65 is going really good. Contractor is ahead of schedule to try to take advantage of the bonus. So Jones Brothers really working hard to get that 6 months ahead, but the current completion date is still in December of 2027 on that, but we expect that to be probably about 6 months to take advantage of the bonus. Knowles Road, we're currently working through utilities, trying to get that resolved. Completion looks July of 2027. The next big thing on that will be in May, we'll be swapping traffic over to the new section that we've constructed. So that's the next thing happening. Down in Rutherford County, 99 seems to be going well. Working through some utilities, Jim, on that. Completion in December of 2027. And two more I want to highlight. 109's progressing. State Route 109 Portland bypass progressing good on schedule. Scotty's doing a good job up there. They're focused around the State Route 52 interchange and the goal is start working on getting some bridge work underway. Completion on that's May of 2028. And then Walton Ferry Road, there was a lot of utilities on that project. I continue to ask for grace on that one. But talking to our district, it's progressing well. A lot of coordination still with utilities ongoing. The completion of that is still set at May of 2027. So from the construction side, that's what I wanted to give the information out. Mainly, I want to highlight the fact that we've got some, maybe a fog of paving going on here next month to try to take care of those old. It's that open grade friction course. It's nice when it's done. It don't spray back on your windshield, but when it goes, it goes. And so
We put a lot down at one time a few years ago
Yeah,
too, so that's why a lot of it came up.
and lessons learned on a lot of that is if it's like a barrier section in the median, it's hard for that water to drain through and figure out its way out. So we're going back on those types of sections to kind of the traditional D-mix design to allow that the surface drainage to happen so it don't get into the pavements and last longer. I'm happy to take any questions, but I just want to give a highlight of where we're at. A lot of work going on.
A lot of information today. I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
tell everybody I appreciate this work on, especially on 840 and I-65.
Absolutely.
If they need someone out there to clap for them or give them water or whatever they need, you call me. Any questions? Sean? Thank you again, Sean. Well, now we're at the chair's report. I would just encourage everyone to tune in or be there or tune in to that TPB meeting to get additional updates as they're needed in advance of the adoption of the RTP. So just please stay involved there. And I mentioned to staff, if y'all need anything, please reach out to anyone you need to. And any way we can help, I'm sure everybody kind of, I'll speak for myself and I'll be glad to help any way I can. That's really all I had. Turn it back over to Daniel McDonald for staff report.
All right, we don't have a slide on this, but I'll turn it to Matthew to talk initially about the tip status report update.
Yes. So, and as Daniel said, we don't have a slide today. You did pick up all the materials outside today. We do have a printout of the obligation report, the tip status report. Some context, you've probably seen this layout generally before. It looks pretty similar to what you've seen in the past. As we've mentioned before, we're in a new tip period. So you're going to see a lot of the numbers kind of reset back to the beginning of the tip period. So whereas before we were talking about like 80% of projects obligated or something in the tip period, we're back down to 3% of FHWA funds obligated in this tip period, 7% of that tip effective period. But generally speaking, what we're trying to do here is track the program funds in the tip and how the obligations are going. So it's sort of a measurement of how quickly projects are moving as expected in the tip. Do feel free to look through in detail. We show specific projects that had obligations during the period. We get these reports more or less monthly from TDOT and then format them and put them into our data systems. The last one we received was in February. So those are the dates you're seeing here. Other items I'll point out, as discussed, we're going through a lot of tip amendments right now and will continue to in the next few months as the RTP is adopted. So I would fully expect that in the next few months, as you see these numbers, they're going to fluctuate pretty wildly until the project list kind of stabilizes a bit. So if you have questions, do feel free to let us know, but we'll continue to bring these to you so you can kind of track how we are doing on funding obligation for projects.
Anything else from staff?
Got a slide on the. Yes, thank you. So UPWP reminder, our planning work program, we adopted a new one in the fall. That's a 2-year period. But every year around this time, we kind of open it up to find any new projects on the planning side that you're working on, or any new regional kind of priorities that you'd like to suggest that we explore. So we have a link there, gnrc.org/survey/UPWP. Go to that by the end of the month, if you will, and submit those. Again, if you have already submitted your projects when we did the updated UPWP in the fall, you don't need to resubmit them. But if you have new plans that you are working on that weren't a concept at that time, locally, we'd love to know about them. And if you have new ideas for us to take under consideration, we'd love to know about those too.
I got a couple of things to share with the group. One is related to UPWP and our annual budgeting process. We have posted estimates for the fiscal year 2027 dues to our website. I'll send out an email to all GNRC members about this. We'll put in the TCC recap, and then formal notices will also go out in the mail in the near future. But if you want access to those numbers today, you can go to gnrc.org/budget. Look on the left-hand side of the page, and you'll see the dues estimates for 2027. We are not proposing an increase in the rate for the NPO dues. We'll stay at 30 cents per capita, but your annual contribution may adjust a little bit based on the updates and the population estimates that we are using from 2024. We are proposing an increase in the GNRC dues rate of 1 penny, so from 44 cents per capita to 45 cents per capita, just to make sure we can continue to draw down the state and federal grants that fund the other non-transportation related stuff that GNRC does. But that is available to you. Staying on money a little bit and kind of referencing back to the obligation status report, that last page of the report shows you a map of the urbanized areas across our region. These geographies are really important in terms of how the suballocated funding flows from federal highway and FTA to us. You'll recall a couple of years ago, we put into place an agreement with TDOT to be able to swap out obligation authority on the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, just to make sure the state as a whole is taking advantage of all the federal funding, all the spending authority that they have on an obligation authority that they have on an annual basis. Jim Kerr, with representing the Murfreesboro urbanized area that you see on the map there, has approached our staff about potentially putting into place an agreement between the Murfreesboro UZA and the Nashville-Davidson UZA for fund swap as well. He's applying for a large discretionary grant, would like to accelerate suballocation of Murfreesboro UZA for the next few years into a single point in time in the near term to be able to match that discretionary grant. I think we are supportive as staff. I just want to put that out there this morning. There's no action requested of this TCC. It's not something that we're going to be asking the TPP to approve in March, but I think it's a good idea. Anything we can do to move things around in the paperwork to leverage additional federal grant dollars to the region, we're going to be supportive. So we're doing the math just to make sure we can actually cover that in the short term, but didn't want y'all to be blindsided by a staff recommendation to the board if that ends up speeding up here in a little bit based on US DOT deadlines. And then I think that's all I got. I'll turn it back over to Daniel for a look at upcoming meetings.
Right. So as was mentioned, the Transportation Policy Board, as you know, is March 18th. We will be moving all these amendments that we talked about today. So that will be a big action item then. And then, of course, we'll have the updates to the RTP. Next TCC is April 1st, first of the month. We will do a recap on the planning activities, the ones that I just mentioned. You could submit new ideas for, and some upcoming work that we hope to be doing, and further updates to the RTP, really getting into the having that date set by then for the adoption of it. As you see on the bottom, we don't have the date set yet, but we will plan to have a specially called meeting to make that adoption in April. And then April 15th, of course, the regional council body, and we're doing the area plan on aging and disability services adoption, and then giving them updates to what these bodies, the transportation bodies, have been doing as well. Any questions on upcoming meetings?
Following up on the timeline, do you think we would see the final RTP document before the Friday? But the agenda comes out on Friday, I guess, before the next meeting. Would it be before that, or would it be, is that when we would see it?
We'll have 30 days to look at it. We're not going to ask anybody to adopt the plan without you having seen the full project list. The project list just isn't yet ready.
No, I'm asking, would we see it probably around like April 1st, or would it be maybe a couple weeks?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question. I'd probably be able to answer the question about when we're going to have the meeting date, but we'll make sure that as soon as it goes live to the website, that you have access to it. It's not necessarily going to be something you have to wait on a packet for. As soon as it's ready, if it's ready this afternoon, it'll post to the website. And
We can make an announcement.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, I do want to say, we take very seriously getting this plan done. And nobody wants this to get adopted any more than I do. But for perspective, we typically historically have amended our tip quarterly throughout the year. We're talking about delay of a few weeks here, not a few months. So we've got the tip amendments are really important. It's what obviously authorizes the obligation of funds on projects, but we're still within the timeframes that we typically have amended our tip. It has only been recently that we moved to amending the tip at every single meeting. So just keep that in the back of your head. We don't want to risk the schedule for obligation. Time is money. But as of this point, we're talking about a few weeks delay, not a few months.
Well, I was talking to staff beforehand, and I'll just kind of open it and say that while everybody wants to get it done at a certain time, I would rather get it done right than worry about a month or two, one way or the other. So that's the most important thing.
If we submit an RTP to the feds that is not reconciled with TDOT,
Yeah.
it's going to get kicked back.
That's right.
And cause it even longer.
So I appreciate the additional time there. I think again, I'd always rather get something right and do it the first time right. Appreciate that discussion. Anything else from staff?
I think that's it from staff.
Okay. Any other business to come before this board or this committee? Sorry, I'm promoting myself already. The Mayor Moore's doing a good job. I don't want to be mayor. Don't tell him. One thing I'll put a bug in staff's ear, I do want to look at getting a vice chair elected.
Yes.
Just in case. I don't plan on going anywhere, but just in case, I might be sick sometime. You don't want me here when I'm sick. So.
Well, I mean, to that end, Mr. Chair, it's custom for the chair to appoint a nominating committee.
Yes.
We can give you a list of the last few chairs, which
Okay.
typically it's a pretty safe committee. And then you can get that announced at the next meeting.
Perfect. That'd be great. All right.
I'll give one heads up. Adam couldn't be here today, but he is accepting a new position with the state's planning office. Josh Suddeth is chairing, so we're losing a lot of TCC members to this new office, but he'll start there in April.
Thank you for that.
Now you can all call him for planning assistance.
Anything else? All right, we'll move to everybody's favorite motion. Look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. No one wants to leave. We can stay. All right, thank you.
At every meeting, somebody always takes a question.
You see, Will? Always fun.
Rarely, somebody takes a question.
Thank you all for that additional discussion. I appreciate that. Everybody. What do you think? Same thing.
It's now David.
But I realize I get it all.
Shit on there. It's hitting one time right now. That's the craziest thing. It's like, you only need to add a leap year into it. You know?
Back, do it again. I feel like we're a mess.
If you don't need anything, please feel free to reach out.
I still feel like
It's
just very quirky.
but we're like,
But on top of that,
say, let's do it like how it is. So it's just.
I don't like the dinner plan, but I like that teal finally.
I love
That's not
Because you still have the long range plan. That's right.
And I used to be, they did give us information, and we were just not making it up. They didn't let me speak it either me. Now, I'm this gray area trying to.
I actually have both sides of that conversation. No, and I agree with you. Everybody's their minds like, we haven't gone through that project that we're doing back in the day. And we do a big plan.
And the hard stuff that go worse right now.
It's like we're constantly changing the way we do things. It's just, yeah, no, I understand where y'all are coming from.
I talked to Ken about. That's not even a question. What they're doing. They told Mayor, don't talk to us for money. Like,
I didn't make it to the meeting. That kind of meeting with PDOT and like the meeting, but multiple midnight.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Hey, it's not how it works.
Exactly.
Now, that's the one thing I've always said, the way y'all do it is we have a list of projects, they're fully constrained, they wrong and right thing is other. I'm trying to get more locally to follow y'all's process when we do our capital planning. I'm not just go through a list of projects. I'm cherry picking projects. I'm going to say myself. A framework. So way we're going to score projects. That's what we're doing. We appreciate it.
Like, just give y'all $25 million because we're asking everything we can.
Well, and that's.
Other people say.
It's an easy.
That's said. We'd like the temperature and feel. That's a completely different thing.
They just announced one last year, they got over $200 million back in the appropriation. That also show up, to get that money back. And yeah, I've had a problem with them having that discussion for a long time because, yes, we have a whole chunk of money sitting there, but they don't realize, well, they do realize, but it's an easy topic. It's easy to prove. It's right. And the way I always try to tell people is, look at a White House. They only have one project.
It's really good.
Tell them, no, we're taking your money and we're going to program somebody else because they need money now because they're, big ass Franklin wants to come in and take their money. It doesn't work that way. That money's been to somebody. Even if it's in
And he just sound very good. There's still a possibility that when you see